was a 19-year-old student at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, south of Florida, has fired a semi-automatic rifle AR-15 just before the end of the class. 17 people died. After the incident, the entire American society was in shock. A debate has begun on the need for a law to tighten firearms that has been sluggish before the horrific disaster. Political community are also issuing various proposals for tightening firearms due to tough public opinion. We need to see if gun regulation will be strengthened. There is still public opposition to tightening gun regulations, and the National Rifle Association, which is wrapped around the Washington, D.C., is also influential. This is why the skepticism that the passage of substantive laws would be difficult. There have been numerous gun cases, but nothing has changed. Some people saying there is no doubt that this time is different from the past. It is strong enough to push the NRA by the protests of the teenagers and the strengthening of the gun regulation through the SNS. There is also an analysis of the local media that politicians can hardly avoid their responsibility. Will it pass the huge wall of the NRA and pass a law to tighten firearms? According to the Center for Responsive Politics, a political fund watched the cost of lobbying in the United States last year amounted to $3.43 billion. As a result of trying to reflect the needs of each functional group in each sector, it increased by $200 million from 2016 and peaked in 7 years after 2010. How much is it written by the NRA, one of the most powerful lobbying organizations in the United States? The official annual expenditure on lobbying activities was about $5.1 million as of last year. Even if all of this money flows into the United States Congress, the amount of money that a member of Congress loses is about $10,000. It seems not enough to wind up the whole political community of Washington, D.C. The reason is simple. In addition to official political funds, the NRA exerts a powerful influence over so-called dark money. This is the Super PAC, which allows you to spend an unlimited amount of money anonymously on campaign without contacting the candidates. Actually, the NRA contributed $20 million to Trump US president at the time of the last presidential election. It's not just that lobbying has the power to move Washington's political community. The long history and the organization of close to 5 million members is another source of strength for the NRA. For Americans, guns are the pride of pioneering history for themselves. The NRA is an organization that can take advantage of this point. There are more than 50,000 gun stores in the US, which is more than whole McDonald's branch. This is possible because the rights of arms ownership are legally guaranteed through Article 2 of the Constitution, ratified in 1791. Article 2 of the United States Constitutional Amendment says a requirement that a well-regulated militia is necessary for the security of the free state, and that the right of the people to possess and carry weapons cannot be violated, has made it possible for any American to have a firearm. Has a history and an industrial structure that is paradoxical that only power can protect itself. According to the US press, the annual sales of the US gun industry is $13.5 billion. Net profit is $1.5 billion. Approximately 357 million firearms owned by 320 million American residents. It has more than one firearm per person. Under this enormous economic structure, the NRA has been barred from gun control by indiscriminate lobbying. Even when discussing legislation on firearms regulation in 2013, it is likely to raise $2.7 million on the spot. So far, more than 90 gunfire have occurred, but here is the real reason why gun control has not been achieved. The influence of the NRA shines when it is elected. In particular, the 2000 presidential election in which Al Gore and George W. Bush met was famous. The NRA, who was opposed by Al Gore, who pledged to beg firearms at the time, must finally defeat him. Originally, the NRA was a group born to prevent civilian casual use of firearms. In the early days, it was a position to positively approve gun control. The National Firearms Act in 1934 and the Gun Control Act in 1968 were laws passed by the NRA at that time. Through the 1960s and 1970s, the character of the NRA deteriorated. It was a time when social conflict and confrontation reached the extreme due to the vigorous anti-war movements and the rise of hippie culture triggered by the Vietnam War. In this situation, The neoconservatives inside the NRA replaced the existing leadership and the 1977 NRA convention. The NRA headquarters, which had been focused on education, enlightenment so far, was taken out of power and the radicals took control of the NRA. Today, the NRA is proud to call it the Cincinnati Revolution. Since then, the NRA has no longer paid any attention to individual responsibility for the possession of firearms and is actively engaged in lobbying activities that focus on gun ownership rights. The NRA has made public opinion loud by their loyalties every time serious events happen since the Columbine High School shootings in 1999. Republican lawmakers, sponsored by the NRA, have hindered the debate by controlling the congressional timeline until after the event, the impact has disappeared.
The NRA is beyond the power of the current President of the United States. President Barack Obama cited Sandy Hook gunfire as the most depressing moment in his tenure, in which 20 elementary school children were murdered. In an interview in 2015, he recalled, "The influence of the NRA on Parliament is too strong and disgusted by the fact that we cannot enforce legal action to tighten gun controls." Obama, who was elected with bold hope, expressed frustration, saying, "There will be no change unless the public's mind changes." The regeneration of the bomb stock is being discussed shortly after the shooting of the Las Vegas gun last year. At the time, the House of Representatives Chairman Paul Ryan defended the NRA's argument that let's regulate the regulations of alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives regulatory agencies instead of legislation. As such, the NRA has maintained its strength through the lobbying of the United States of America and politics and has thoroughly prevented gun control.
But Florida high school shooting is shaking the hard-nosed NRA. There has been a consensus that students have held violent demonstrations in front of the White House and that they have to tighten firearms nationwide. According to a poll by CNN, a survey conducted by a survey company SSRS, the opinion on the most powerful gun regulation was 70%, the highest since December 1993. Moreover, it is a threat to the NRA that companies that have benefited from NRA membership in the past, who have fallen behind the public opinion, are turning their backs. Delta Airlines has announced that it will discontinue discounts on Gunners Association member via Twitter on 24th, and United Airlines has also decided to discontinue airline discounts. Also, used car dealers Turco announced that it will stop NRA affiliate service from 28th. Some of the companies that have announced to close their relationships with NRA so far include car rental companies, HOTS, Avis, Budget, Enterprise, First National Bank of Omaha, insurance company MetLife, and cyber security company Symantec. President Donald Trump is also changing his posture by failing to be pressured by public opinion. He said he supports actions such as strengthening the identity of gun buyers, prohibiting bump stock, a tool that turns semi-automatic rifles into automatic rifles, and seizing guns from suspected wrongdoers. Mrs. Melania Trump, the First Lady, also spoke at a luncheon with his wife of 20 governors, saying, "I was inspired to see the children making their own voices and trying to make a difference." Those who argue for gun control cannot miss this opportunity. This is because the actual victim and the potential victim have begun to emerge from the society. Me Next movement is representative. The Me Too hashtag, which has evolved as a campaign to expose sexual violence in Hollywood, has evolved into a slogan of gun control. American students share the Me Next hashtag on the SNS and are angered by politics and government. Currently on Facebook, 12,000 users are participating in the workout in 2 days by pressing likes and follow. Gun regulator supporters are more desperate if they lose sight of this opportunity to move public opinion and politicians, and worried that firearms regulation may become an issue in the future. It is also a good sign that the demand for firearms, which have been shrouded in the lobby of the NRA, is now showing some achievements such as covert backlogs. But the resistance of the conservatives in the United States is tough. That is why you cannot give up your personal firearms. They recalled that the gun regulatory legislation did not pass the US Congress at the time of the Las Vegas casualties, which killed or injured about 500 people last October, and the Orlando firearms that killed 49 people in 2016. The NLA responded to President Trump's remarks, saying, "I feel a tremendous betrayal." Republican Party Vice Governor Casey Cagle, the governor of Georgia, threatened to deprive Delta Airlines of $40 million from the state's tax benefits. Senator Rick Jeffries of Georgia said Delta will know that it cannot tolerate attacking the Second Amendment, which guarantees arms rights.
Actually, on March 12, the US government announced that the firearms regulations contain only the issue of school staff arms. The regulations President Trump gave his support were excluded because of the need for amendments to the law.
As of 2018, about 35 countries, including the United Kingdom, are allowed to own firearms. However, few countries have frequent firearm accidents like the United States. More than 40,000 people have been shot or hurt or injured in the United States since 2015. The gun purchased to protect itself is like a double-edged sword for children and citizens.
Can firearms